What is up, everybody? Lee Hyun here. Today we are going to be doing, this is going to be a scary video where we're going to be reacting to uh, all this, basically. I should have done that one instead. Well, actually, we'll do this one. We'll go to that one. And then we'll do this one probably in a part two. This will probably end up in a part two in the video. And then this will be part three. I thought I said part wrong. Oh, whatever. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm pretty scared.
For your information, this story is not my personal story, but is one of my friends. Her name is Miranda, and one day she did her typical
Mother Miranda. Mother Miranda was scary. Mother. Oh, wait, no. That way. Mother Miranda. Right here. Right there. Right there. Oh. She's gone. Son of a bitch. Okay. Anyway, back to the video.
morning routines right before school, messaging people on Snapchat while walking. Around 20 minutes.
No. I don't like that. There's already eerie music. Oh, hell no.
Later,
hell
she
no.
arrived at her school. However, then she immediately realized that something weird. There was no one outside of the school. At first, she thought that everyone just entered inside, or that she was kind of late, so ended up shrugging off and quickly walked into school. She tried to message her friends, but no one responded at that time.
No
service? But I have full bars on my phone, though.
Oh.
The inside of the building was quiet when she entered, and she noticed that there was also no one around. She was even more confused and didn't know what to do. She began to walk to her class. As she went past the cafeteria, she saw that there was only one person in there, and his head was down. When she was about to pass by, and at that moment, she realized that there was blood below the person. She froze in the spot. Just then, her phone buzzed, and it was a Snapchat notification from one of her friends. "Hey, there's a shooter in the building, and the person already shot a few people." Obviously, Miranda freaked out at that moment. She started to run out of the building. To tell the truth, Miranda was a very lucky girl. As Miranda ran out of the building, the shooter, who was in the office that was next to the exit, didn't see her because he was stabbing a student at the same time. After the cops entered the building, the massive killer already killed himself. Fortunately, almost everyone was evacuated, but there were a total of 7 deaths and over a dozen injured. One of Miranda's friends, who didn't respond to her, was one of the people that were killed. And actually, her friend was the one in the cafeteria that was laying his head down. Miranda eventually went to the police station to watch the
Holy shit! That's some scary ass shit!
security footage, and as she watched the video, it turned out that the man stabbing someone in the office slowly raised the gun and pulled the trigger towards her running to the exit. However, he ended up failing because the gun was out of bullets.
Damn, man, she's a soldier. Hell yeah. She would have been dead. She would have been fucked. Damn. Wow.
Although the school now has more security guards,
I bet.
All around the building, along with more police officers and more cameras and metal detectors around all areas, she doesn't go to that school anymore.
I
If he
wouldn't.
had one more bullet, she would have been a goner.
Yeah,
She thanks God every
yeah.
day that she eventually had
I would have thanked God too. Damn.
survived from hell.
Damn. Fuck that bitch. Killing innocent fucking kids. Are you high? Alright, moving on. Um, let's see here. Um, 30. Oh, this is 2020. Okay. All right, shit. I got a decision. You know what? What time is it? Okay, yeah, I got 10 minutes and, well, not like 10 minutes until I stop recording school lockdown stories. Yeah, there's a girl. I honestly wouldn't really see a girl shooting up the school. I really wouldn't. But
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do.
no, I'm doing reaction video right
I
now.
haven't seen the sun in years.
Yeah.
So, let's...
I see the sun all the time. It's shining through my window. Fucking bright ass. Okay, alright, so this is true horror story. True elevator horror story animated, as you already saw. So we're gonna go with this one, and then we're gonna do the 1 hour one next. So, which will probably pick up tomorrow. Actually, I could probably finish it tonight.
Work at one company for about a year before I entered the company I'm working at currently. Time I was living alone with my wife. Although we both like kids, we weren't ready yet.
It's fair enough.
Anyway, it was one night and I was heading home being drunk as usual after finishing a get-together. Passing through the front door of the apartment, I pressed the button to get on the elevator, and the elevator that was stopped on the third basement level began to climb slowly. Finally, the elevator arrived on the first floor.
What?
And I felt cold as soon as I walked inside.
Oh no. No, man. That's not a good sign. If you feel cold anywhere, you know it's gonna get you. It's gonna get your ass. It's coming for you.
It was almost 12 o'clock and my body was getting hot by the effects of alcohol, but I could definitely feel chilly inside the elevator.
Well, I mean, it could be he was drunk too, so like he said, but if you're cold for some damn reason, oh hell no, if you're cold enough to see your breath, you better run out the building.
I guess it's because
I don't care if you hide in a fucking closet or not. No, you run out that damn building, cause that ghost is coming for your ass.
the elevator stayed deep underground for a while, I thought, and then pressed the 16th floor button where I live. The elevator started moving slowly. However, it suddenly stopped on the 5th floor. Normally, the people in my apartment didn't take the elevator very often at the time, so I was standing in the middle of the elevator. As soon as the door opened, I stepped aside. But no one was standing there. I thought someone who was impatient must have pressed the button and then just went up to the emergency exit stairs. So I pressed the close button and the elevator stopped again on the 6th floor. And there's no one there either. When the elevator stopped on the 7th floor, I suddenly got...
Is this like another version of the elevator game? Where a ghost is taking you from floor to floor to floor and turning and making you go into another dimension.
I got angry. Hey, stop! I stuck my head out the door and shouted.
I would have said the same thing.
But I didn't feel any human presence upstairs. A sudden shudder passed over me, but still I thought it was someone's prank. The elevator then stopped again on the 8th floor while going up, but this time there was a little girl standing in front of the door.
Oh.
She seemed like she was about 6 or 7 years old, but you know what was a strange thing about her? Despite the late hours, there was no one around her. Like parents, someone like that. But this kid just stood there still without getting on. "Hey kid, are you gonna get in?" I asked, but she didn't answer. As soon as I felt chill somewhere, I soon pressed the close button of the elevator. Just as the door was closing halfway through, she pressed the open button again. The short kid standing on tiptoes opened the elevator door, so I told her again to get inside. However, she still stood there without answering. Just at that time, I thought this was the one who's been playing pranks on me. So I pointed my finger at the CCTV and yelled at her not to prank anymore. Then the girl staring at me slowly opened her mouth. "I'll get in when my mom comes," she answered in a small voice. But I couldn't see any shadow of people no matter how much I looked around. But somehow her voice seemed really dark and creepy. It wasn't a childlike voice at all. I pressed the close button again roughly, and fortunately the kid didn't press the open button this time. The elevator started going up again and didn't stop on the next floor. With a sigh of relief, I just wanted to get off and get home as soon as possible. It was at that very moment.
Oh no.
I was on the 11th floor and the light suddenly started blinking.
Oh no, you fucked.
I was staring at the light with a nervous mind, and something was
fucked.
strange with it. There was some spot on the light that was stained,
No.
as if someone had dropped black ink.
No.
And to my surprise, it was getting bigger and bigger every time the light went on and off. It can't be. I'm imagining because I drank too much. I kept repeating it inside, but the stains grew bigger and bigger as if it was teasing me. Although I was sweating on my back, it was still chilly inside the elevator. And the moment I looked at the light and then looked straight front this time, I couldn't help but doubt my eyes. There, I could see a person's hand reflected on my back. Seriously? I was the only one in this elevator. After having confidence that there's an unknown thing that exists here, I was seized with extreme fear. The time to go up to the 16th floor was like an eternity. I couldn't hold my fear back. I eventually pressed the button to get off the 14th floor. I was about to pop out as soon as the door opened, but I had to stop suddenly. The girl I saw on the 8th floor was standing there, like she was waiting for me. I felt like my heart was sinking. Shivering, just as I was about to get off, she raised her head slowly. At that moment, I saw it. Unlike before, she was smiling brightly, as if her mouth...
Son of a bitch. Fuck you.
was going to be ripped soon. "My mom is here now.
Oh.
I'm going to get in." Mom? What's she talking about? I'm sure the elevator was empty from the basement floor. Besides, not even...
Oh wait, does this reside when he said he wanted kids, but he's not ready? Isn't that like his kid?
Even a small rat was to be seen, let alone a human while I was inside. Then who is it? I was strained to the limit, and my legs were trembling. I almost pushed the child and ran out of the elevator to the emergency stairs. For some reason, I was afraid that I'd never see my wife again if I stayed here. I was going up the stairs frantically. Just then, the sensor at the emergency exit started turning on much faster than my speed. It's like someone was already going up. I was about to go insane. When I finally reached the 16th floor, I flung the emergency door open and rushed out of. I turned. I tried to run toward my house, and then someone was standing in front of the house. The woman with incredibly long hair and the girl I saw at the elevator. They were there. How the heck did they know my house? I didn't know what was going on right now, but only one thing came to my mind for a moment. I must not go back home now. I barely managed to turn back and carefully twisted the emergency door again. And at that moment, my sweaty hand just slipped and the door clanked in the quiet hallway. The moment I looked into the hallway with a desire to cry, I suddenly heard a sound from the end of the hall. It was the sound of a woman's shoes and baby shoes. I pushed the emergency exit door. While I ran frantically downstairs, I could hear the shoe sounds behind me at regular intervals. Almost rolling over myself, I went down through the front door and then rushed into the lighted security office. However, the security guard was just patrolling his round at that time, so he was not there. I lifted my trembling body and looked at the front door through the small window in the front. And at that moment, I felt my legs weaken. A woman and a child didn't come out of the front door.
I imagine my mouth was open the whole entire time.
But they were glaring at me fiercely, as if they were going to kill me.
Oh, hell no.
I was about to scream, but just then, the guard came into the office.
Oh, thank God. Oh, shit.
He got surprised to see me trembling and asked me what was going on. I tried to explain by pointing my hand at the front door, but then I realized that there was no one. Eventually, the security guard came to my house with me. To my surprise, my wife, who thought she was asleep already, was waiting for me with the lights on. And what my wife told me was a surprise itself.
No.
She said that someone rang our doorbell when I was seeing the woman and kid in front of my house. My wife thought it was me out there, so she walked to the front door to open it. But then she felt something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Because whenever I came home late at night after dinner, I always acted more carefully instead of ringing the bell. So my wife turned on the intercom and looked out. But there was no one.
Oh, hell no.
And when she returned to her seat, the bell rang again, and the same situation repeated, on and on. So this time she was looking closely at the screen when the moment the bell rang without putting down the phone, and there was the face of the woman who filled the screen to the full. At first, it's like someone was sticking her face on the screen intentionally, but when my wife looked closely, her face looked so pale, as if it were dead already. She urgently turned on all the light right away and tried to call the administration office. However, the guard didn't answer because he was just on patrol and at that time, and I was running downstairs like crazy. When my wife saw the intercom screen again, it was already gone. The next day's morning, I went to the security office to check the elevator CCTV, and I couldn't keep my mouth closed for a while in a panic. On CCTV, I could see that I was waiting for the elevator on the first floor. I stepped inside. Nothing happened at first. However, I suddenly started to press the buttons from 5th to 8th floors as if I were possessed by something. There was literally no one on the 7th floor, but I screamed into the air, and when the door opened on the 8th floor, I murmured something and then pressed the door's button to open. I pointed at the CCTV and said something and then finally pressed the close button. Furthermore, I was gazing on the elevator lights for a while. Then I suddenly pressed the button on the 14th floor and ran out. So that means I was doing something really weird by myself. The CCTV on the front door also captured only me. No one came out. The guard laughed at me and my wife, saying that we saw imaginary things. But the feelings I felt at that moment were so real. It was so vivid. Who the heck were that woman and the child? Still, I have no idea.
No. Oh yeah, don't start that shit. No. We're done here. Okay. All right. That was so scary. All right. So we are gonna move on to the 1 hour one, where it has 30 scary stories, and let's go to that. Okay. All right. So I was checking some. Sorry. So this is the 1 hour 1 hour English 1 hour video with 30 horror stories, and yeah, this is gonna be interesting. So all right, let's get to it. Okay, you know what? All right. When you know, if you notice a guy keep on staring at you, know what? If it's an older guy, you know you're fucked. You run. I don't care. To you boys and girls, on whatever age, you run. You run, or it's your ass. It's gonna be your ass if you do not run.
This happened pretty recent, about 3 weeks ago. Myself and 3 friends were hanging out at a shopping center one evening. We were messing around posting clips on TikTok. Then one of my friends started laughing, and I asked her what she was laughing at. She told me that guy behind us kept staring at me. When I turned around...
What? Okay. Here's the thing. When a guy keeps staring at you, when he has glasses where you can't see his eyes, and a hat, and a jumpsuit, I think you know you're fucked. It's your ass. If you see that guy, you already know he's trying to kidnap you.
It was some older guy just watching me. He had black sunglasses, a cap, an old Adidas tracksuit with scuffed up shoes.
Okay, technically the same thing.
And had a disgusting looking beard. My friends thought it was hilarious, but I found it really weird. Then another one of my friends said she thinks that guy lives on her street, about a few houses down from her.
Great.
She said that he actually follows her on TikTok. At that point, I quickly got my phone out to check if he was following me, and he was. I had to block him because he seemed a bit creepy. We went to get McDonald's.
I would have done this
before we went.
I love McDonald's. They're fucking Big Macs. It just takes you to heaven. That Mac sauce, man, so good.
Home, and I received a message on TikTok from someone. It was that guy who had been following us.Is name was Greg, and he
wait, hold on.
Say
that again.
Who had been following, and I received a message on TikTok from someone.
Okay, how? Oh, well, that too.
It was that guy who had been following us. His name was Greg.
But it kind of sounds like it was the same account, though. If you already blocked someone, they can't text you. Whatever.
And
he must have made a new account.
Why did you block me? With 2 emojis. One was a crying face, and the other one was an angry face. He had actually created another account that day.
Okay, alright, yeah, there we go.
I blocked that account as well, hoping that would be the end of it. I didn't mention it to my friends this time, knowing they would just laugh. That night, I was up late and had Netflix on in the background as I was chatting with my friends on Facebook while scrolling through TikTok. I got up to use the bathroom, and when I returned, I had 3 messages from my friends, all saying the same thing. All were things like, "Who's in your room?" and "What's up with your last post?"
Hell no.
I asked them what they were talking about, and they told me to check my TikTok, so I did. It was a clip of my bedroom. It was a clip of someone picking up my phone and recording the inside of my room. At that point, I heard a creaking. Then I heard a man's voice say, "Sorry, please don't scream." And turned to see
me. Why say, "Sorry, please don't scream"? When you say don't scream, you already know shit's gonna get real, okay?
The closet door is slightly open. I started to scream when the same guy who had been following us burst out of my closet and tried to cover my mouth. Thank God I screamed and it was enough for my parents to hear. They came upstairs and my dad tackled the guy to the floor. The police were called and he was arrested. We were informed that the guy had straight up admitted to stalking and breaking and entering. One of my friends...
This is some intense ass music.
...pointed out, if I go back and look at the post on TikTok from when we were in the shopping center,
dude,
you can see Greg is in almost all of those pictures.
Dude, is this actually true right here? Wearing a fucking lion costume while stalking your target.
Somewhere in the background. I haven't
someone.
heard what's going to happen to Greg yet, but I just hope he won't ever come near us again.
Hey, wanna play
At least
some
that one
video
was
games? I know
no,
I
I'm
do.
doing
I haven't
reaction
seen the
video.
sun in
Shut up.
years. So,
Thank you. Wait, what? I went in the wrong ride. I went in the wrong ride and almost got killed. Uber driver? Dude, there's a lot of scary stories about Uber drivers, and yeah.
This is not about my story, but someone from my church, and he
Sure.
wanted
Oh,
to share
hell
his
no.
experience with anyone else. He's a 32-year-old man, and his pseudonym is Mark.
Average age.
He's
Mark?
a fairly big 32-year-old man, and his pseudonym is Mark. He's a fairly big guy, and this situation took place when he was on his way home from work. He said that he had lost his phone 1 week before this whole situation happened, so he couldn't call and get any help during this story. It was quite late, around 11 p.m. He had finished work and was walking to a taxi stop location, and when he got there, a few people were standing around waiting as well. After about 2 minutes, he noticed that there was a minivan approaching. Usually, minivans are cheaper than taxis, and he felt tired that day, so he decided to take the minivan. He sat on a seat, and there was a young boy seated in the passenger side next to the driver.
Okay, all right. Okay, when there's a young boy, we're getting some interesting facts up in here. Okay.
Who was collecting the fare. And then, 2 other boys who looked like teenagers also boarded the minivan and sat in the seats in front of him. Once the minivan took off, after about 5 minutes, the boy asked if they would like to drink some Coke. The boys accepted and started drinking. And they also gave it to Mark. Mark was also feeling thirsty, so he took it, but only a sip. Not much later, he started feeling drowsy. Just before he about laid his head on the seat beside him, he noticed that those 2 boys were already knocked out. After he laid his head down, he heard noises coming from the back seats. 2 people were talking in a different language.
Man, when you know they're talking another language, it's your ass.
The car was passing a big signboard that showed Crest Chicken Farm. And then he finally passed out. When he got up, he found himself inside a big shed-like barn, and there were some tools on a big table. He was on the floor, and the other 2 teenage boys were laying next to him. He still felt a bit drowsy, but he managed to get himself up as he was looking for an escape. He saw that the 2 boys were still passed out, so he tried waking them, but they wouldn't budge. As Mark was kind of a big man, he tried to see if he could carry one of them, but it was hard to do because even Mark was having a hard time to stand properly. And then he heard voices. He took a peek from the door, and 3 people were walking toward the big shed, coming from a house on the hill, which was quite close to the shed. Mark panicked and tried to look for another exit. He was looking around the place, and he found one at the end of the shed, luckily. He approached quietly and escaped as fast as he could. At this point, his vision was all blurry, but he managed to find a fence door and unlocked it. He heard the people shouting, but he ignored. He just kept on running. When he finally reached his house, it was early morning, around 5 a.m. His wife was up all night waiting for him and ran out the front door as soon as she saw him. He collapsed and slept for almost the whole day.
Damn.
When he woke up and finally got a chance to explain to his wife what had transpired that night, he remembered about the other 2 boys who were still there. Then he contacted the police immediately. He told the police about the road signs and a big billboard for Crest Chicken Farm and other things that he could remember. About 2 weeks after, there was a police report about how they found 2 teenage boys' bodies in a lake and advised that when they examined the bodies, all their organs were missing.
Damn.
Mark just stood in fear. And as the event was too traumatic for him, Mark had to quit a job for a while.
I kissed a psychopath at the party. All right.
When I was in my last year of college, I started going to frat parties more often. I remember where they would have the frat parties at. It was at some creepy abandoned lake. There was one cabin around the lake, and it was big enough for parties. And that night, me and my friend Kai were walking to the lake for the party. When we got there, I saw a beautiful young girl. She had blonde hair with pretty blue eyes. Kai noticed that I was staring at her, and of course, he made a dumb joke. I told him to shut up, and he chuckled. And then he said, "Go talk to her, dude." I refused at first, but after 5 minutes, Kai convinced me to go over to her. So I finally went for it. I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, are you new around here?" She then said, "Yeah, it's my first year of college," and smiled. Then she told me that her name was Jamie. We started talking, and about 1 hour later, we decided to go into the woods. As soon as we were far enough away from the party, she looked at me and we started kissing. Well, to tell the truth, it was the best moment ever of my life. After about 20 minutes of making out, she said, "Let's go back to the party." But after walking for 5 miles, I heard something. And suddenly, I realized that Jamie was with me no more. She was gone while I was not paying attention to her. I called her name, but there was no answer. Then I heard a strange sound again on my left side. I went to investigate, and I froze in fear. It was a man in his late 50s, tied up to a tree. He had tape on his mouth, and he was beaten up badly. So I untied him, took the tape off, and I asked him, "Are you okay, sir?" The man said he was okay, and I asked again, "Who did this to him?" And his answer terrified me. He replied that it was the girl with blonde hair, with blue eyes. As soon as he said it, I heard rustling noises coming from behind me. I turned around. Jamie was there, and she had an axe in her hand. She was smiling again, but now it became madness. I tried talking to Jamie and told her to put the axe down, but she didn't listen. She threw the axe right at me. Luckily, the axe missed me and hit a log beside me. I had no choice at all. I tackled her to the ground and screamed for help. Kai and 2 other dudes came to me in a hurry and helped to restrain her. I was pissed and also shocked. I asked her, why did she attack that man? She laughed and told me, "What's the problem? You don't have to worry about it," something like that. I told Kai to watch her while I called the cops, and the cops showed up within minutes. The party was canceled, and everyone had to go back to campus. I still think what would have happened if I didn't pay attention to the sounds and just kept walking to the party. I hope Jamie never finds me again.
So then I said to him, "You ought to customize your car insurance with Liberty Mutual, so you only pay for what you need."
No, man. When you visit the dark web, oh my, no.
A few years ago, more like 10 years ago, I used to be big into visiting weird websites. I had a lot of time on my hand due to not playing sports, nor did I volunteer for anything at all in high school. I told my friend Mark that I was starting to get bored. Honestly, I was bored with what I was experiencing on these websites. He said I should go on the deep web. He and I used to go on the deep web, but never found anything. So I decided to search through some more stuff, a little deeper. I searched for hours every day for about 2.5 months. Still nothing that I hadn't seen already. I told Mark, and of course he said just visit the dark web. When I did go on the dark web, I saw chat rooms, all with different names. I came across one named I, as in EYE. It was all in caps. I entered the chat, but Before entering the live chat, you are assigned a number. Mine was P34. I confirmed my number and entered. There were hundreds of people. The comments were coming in quick. At first, I didn't understand what was going on. The screen was black, then a name popped up on the screen that said Mr. Wiggles.
Mr. Wiggles.
The comments immediately stopped and a voice came over my speakers. Welcome, P34. Then his name disappeared off of the screen and the comments continued, everyone giving me welcomes. A few minutes go by, then a countdown from 10 pops up on the screen. Then the chat goes crazy. Once it reached the number 1, the screen went straight to what looks like a view from a camera just watching someone in what looks like at their home. I sat there watching this for 20 minutes and nothing happened, so I shut down my computer. The next day I went to school, had a normal day, went to Walmart, then I went home. I decided to go back on the same chat from before. I confirmed my number P34 and again, there were hundreds of people commenting. Mr. Wiggles popped up and just like before, the comments stopped. Across the screen it said, no new members tonight. Then the countdown started again. Everyone in the chat started going wild. The countdown finished and then it was showing the point of view from a camera again. But it was outside of a school. My school from earlier that day. At that point I was intrigued. I couldn't tell if it was focused on a certain person or just watching the school. After 30 minutes of watching the video, our school bell rang and everyone started to come outside while whoever was recording was positioned across the street in the car. Once everyone came out, the person got out of the car and started to follow a crowd of kids. Everyone started to split from each other and the person recording started to follow someone. It was my friend Mark. He had to be at least 100 feet behind him. I started to call Mark, but he didn't answer. As I watched the video, but nothing. The person followed him to his house and sat outside of his house for a few minutes. The man behind the camera finally said, "No parents are home." And he began to walk to Mark's house, rang the doorbell, and waited as he continued to record. A few seconds go by, and Mark opened the door. He looked confused and the guy said, "P34 sent me." And Mark looked afraid that the camera shut off and everyone in the chat left. So I did too. I called Mark's house phone instead of his cell phone, and his mother answered. I asked for Mark and she said that she thought he was with me. I panicked. I then received a notification on my phone from my Gmail account. It said the sender was Mr. Wiggles. The message was, "I'm getting closer, P34. Mark says hi." I was shocked and didn't know what to do, so I called the cops. They didn't do anything about it because the email disappeared. I haven't been on the dark web since and no one has seen Mark. Still to this day, I receive messages with pictures of me in random places along with the same written message that said, "It can happen anytime." I honestly wish I never went on the dark web.
That, honestly, I was good, but it wasn't really. I don't know how to put it. At the same time, it wasn't good, but it was good. Got a little bit of chills on my back. So, for you kids out there, never visit the dark web. My mom disappeared and I ate strange meat. Okay.
I don't know what to do. It all started 3 weeks ago. My mom disappeared.
That's not good.
She was at home in the morning, nothing different. She hugged me, saying goodbye, wished me luck with school, and gave me a packed lunch. And when I got home that evening, she wasn't there. She didn't come back. So we called the police and all of the search was set up. The whole town came together and held a giant search party, lasting through the night, but there was no sign of her at all. She had just completely vanished. The weeks since were hell for both me and my dad. Rumors started spreading through town, and particularly around the school, that my mom had been murdered. Dad took things a lot worse than I did. He was a carpenter, so it wasn't unusual behavior for him to disappear into the garage for a long time to work on a chair or table or something. Especially, it was what he always did when he was stressed. I figured that's just how he was dealing with the grief. We barely spoke over the next couple weeks. He was locked in there from sunrise to midnight. And we might bump into each other at one point, but he'd just say goodnight and went to bed. Sure, it was a bit weird, but I understood that he was going
The dad did something.
through a lot.
I mean, that could be too. He could be going through his missing wife, but
the longer
he could have done something.
he spent in there, the less I was sure he was doing woodwork. There were large bottles of bleach popping up in our bins, and Dad barely took any break. One night, I had waited for him to go to sleep, and I crept down to try to open the door, but it was locked tight, and Dad always had the key. But today, when I came home from school, he was in the kitchen, freshly shaved, showered, had a rested face. He was totally different from what he'd been for the last couple of weeks. He was cooking. My dad used to love grilling, and his steaks were always amazing.
He ate his mom. He ate his mom. Probably.
Delicious. So it was a nice change, since I fed myself only pot noodles and soup for a few weeks. He set down two of the biggest, bloodiest steaks I had ever seen in my life. But it looked kind of different. Not bad, but just different. Dad tucked into a steak straight away, and I did too. It was a bit tough to chew, but the seasoning and flavors tasted just as good as the rest of the steaks were. We had finished pretty soon, and I was feeling full and satisfied. Then Dad said something I can't stop thinking about. I doubt they'll ever find her body. His voice didn't
He ate his mom.
sound sad or depressed. I didn't say anything, just stared at him. Hearing what he said sent shivers down my spine. Then I thought of the steaks. The late nights in the garage, hundreds of bleach bottles, and my dad's weird behavior. Did he feed me her body? Or am I just overthinking it? What do I do?
Bro, that's just messed up.
What a pleasant way to begin my 3 a.m. shift at Mercy Hospital. The first thing I did as I sat down was cut my finger. It was a paper cut. And despite working at one of
Paper cuts hurt.
the largest hospitals in the state, I couldn't find a single band-aid laying around. I sucked on my index finger like a vampire while I scrambled my desk for that band-aid. I found one. Purple. I'm a hospital receptionist, and all that means is I greet visitors, make appointments, and look nice. Well, as nice as a 30-year-old man who hasn't slept in hours can look. That night, as we call it, it was just me and a few nurses on the floor. Other than that, it was ghost quiet, except for the heavy, heavy rain.
Oh, I think I remember
Sat
watching
back on the cheap recliner chair, all receptionists
I
get
think there was a woman that came in the hospital. She was wearing black, I think.
the honour of using. While adjusting my band-aid, I listened to the television mounted on the corner of the ceiling as it broadcasted a seemingly important message.
Authorities say the woman was last seen on Cedar Avenue.
I looked up to see if the television was showing any images of this strange woman. None. It was yet another crazy person with no name and no face who we were supposed to look out for. Not creepy at all.
Authorities also say the woman was reportedly walking around and asking people very, very bizarre questions.
I focused back on my desk and continued working, but I still listened as the news anchor went on and on. She continued.
The following statement was issued by an unidentified government official.
Listen carefully, folks. Whatever she asks you, answer no. Do not, under any circumstances, answer yes.
Officials won't comment further as to why, citing security clearance. Please are asking that you immediately call 911 if you deem anyone suspicious.
I thought that part of the coverage was quite odd, but I wasn't sure anything could scare me anymore. Working here at the hospital, I thought I had seen it all. At the flash of the ruby red ambulance lights, I've seen people come in with severed arms, legs, fingers, people who somehow managed to scoop out their eyes, failed suicide attempts, and much, much more. You get used to it. My head was practically sunk into my desk as I filled out paperwork. That's when I heard something very subtle, initially. I heard it coming from the front doors, the entrance. The automatic doors opened.
Yeah, I've seen this one before. The doors keep on closing and opening
against each other, and sounding an obnoxiously loud thud each time. The very dim lighting I had surrounding my desk flickered incessantly. Hello? I called out, seated behind the safety of my desk. Only the whistling wind responded. Hello? I called out again. I felt obligated to check if someone was there, especially since it might have been someone who was injured and needed our attention. I reluctantly picked myself up from my chair and walked over to inspect. I nearly slipped and cracked my head open as the entrance floor was almost flooded from the rain. I noticed footsteps, wet shoe marks that seemed to come inside the hospital and then back out. I stood near the doors, poking my head outside, and looked. All I heard was the distant sounds of sirens and honking cars. The rain poured harder. The peace and quiet was disturbed within moments of me sitting back down. The automatic door started again, opening and closing, slamming shut, and letting in more rain as they did. But this time, I heard gentle footsteps make their way towards me, tapping closer and closer. Someone slowly emerged from the darkness between the entrance and front desk. A woman with drenched black hair approached, wearing a dark
black
brown
hair,
apron
not
and a pair of
black,
boots
not
that were too
wearing
large
all
for
black.
her toothpick legs. Her face was inundated with wrinkles and wet makeup. Her black eyeshadow smudged. Despite the heavy rain outside, she didn't seem to have bothered wearing her hoodie. Hello, how can I help you, ma'am? She didn't respond. She looked around, scanning and observing an unimpressive hospital. Is there something I can help you with? Still nothing. We engaged in a brief stare down, which she won. I looked down and pretended to gather important paperwork. Are you here to visit someone? Then finally, she responded, without talking. She simply nodded and then took a few steps forward, her hands hanging down her side. Her posture was unnatural, almost uncomfortable. Okay, for now I need you to sign here, then you'll have to wait a few hours for visiting time to begin, I said, pushing forward a sheet of paper and a pen. She raised her arm to sign and then abruptly stopped. She seemed startled by something on the desk. She looked at me, tilted her head and, with a smile that was as wide as her eyes, said,
"Would you please move that for me?"
I was confused at first, and then she pointed at it with her index finger, as drops of rainwater tapped against my desk while her arm hovered over it. I took the little crucifix we had at the front desk and put it in the drawer. The woman proceeded as if she was going to finally sign the paper and then stop before writing anything. She dropped the pen on the ground and stood there again, staring at me. She asked me a question.
"Do you reject the Trinity?"
"I'm sorry," I replied. For a few more uncomfortable moments, the woman stood there, like an ancient statue. I had no idea what she meant by the question. "Ma'am, who exactly are you here to see? Family? Friend? What's your relationship with the patient?" Before I could finish talking midway through my question, the woman turned around and walked out the door, still smiling and her eyes as wide as I'd ever seen on a person. I went back to work and tried to move on, but her creepy mannerisms were trapped in my mind throughout the night. At around 4 a.m. I spotted one of the children in our hospital walking down the hall. "Nina, is that you?" I called out. All the kids in the hospital knew me. I was proudly considered one of the cooler employees. I let them break the rules. I brought them snacks upstairs and even told them scary stories, despite their predictable regret later on. The nurses would get angry with me every time I held one of my scary story nights. They always had a bunch of bed sheets to change the next morning. I only did these things for the kids when I wasn't busy, when it was a quiet night, and this was one of those uneventful nights, which of course was a good thing. Anyway, it was very odd to see Nina.
I think she did something to the kid's finger.
At that time, walking down those shadowy halls. She was absolutely terrified of the dark, and yet there she was. "Nina, is that you?" I squinted my eyes as I walked towards her.
"Sorry, Matt,"
she began.
"I don't want to be there anymore."
She had dragged her blue blanket along with her, which was her way of gesturing to us that she wanted to move to another room. "The other kids bothering you again?" I asked. I took hold of her hand and began walking her back to the elevator.
"Matt, please, don't make me go back up there. I don't like the new nurse."
I stopped walking. "What?" I said, kneeling to Nina's level.
"She keeps asking us the same question over and over. I said no so many times. I keep telling her no, but everyone else kept laughing with her and saying yes to her. Please, I don't want to go back up."
Nina's words immediately played flashbacks inside my tired, overworked mind. Something about a strange woman going around and asking even stranger questions. I didn't pay enough attention to that broadcast to notice the woman, but even if I had, I thought she had left the hospital. I ditched the elevator and ran up a flight of daunting stairs, stomping against each step with all the force I could muster. I probably woke up all those sleeping employees, I was so loud. I opened the door to the children's room and couldn't believe my eyes. I checked each room, each one on each floor. I woke up my co-worker nurse and asked about the children. She couldn't find them either. We looked everywhere and put the hospital on lockdown. We set off all possible alarms and other emergency procedures. We didn't find them. All that was left behind were their clothes.
I haven't seen this ad in long. But yeah, that. Mysterious man is standing outside and trying to enter my house. Before we get into this video, why don't you check your windows too and make sure there's no creepy ass man standing outside your house.
My name is Pascal. I'm 22 years old now, but this event happened 3 years ago when I was 19. It happened in the middle of the night. My parents were away for an important company meeting. The company was kind of far away from where we lived, so I stayed home by myself while they were gone. One time, while I was at home alone, I looked out the window randomly and froze. There was a tall man.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. He carrying that knife. Hell no.
Dressed entirely in black. He was wearing a tuxedo.
That doesn't look like a tuxedo. Or it doesn't look like black.
And holding a kitchen knife. This guy was standing right outside of the door, looking at me. He wasn't laughing at all, and his head was twitching continuously. "Sir, please get off our property. Otherwise, I'll call the police." I opened the window and told him. Then the man replied, "Oh, you can do that if you want, as long as you don't look away." Because of this strange attitude, I felt anxious. So I grabbed my cell phone and called the police. But when I looked out the window again, he was gone. At that very moment, I heard footsteps coming from downstairs. I suddenly remembered that I forgot to lock my garden door, so it was still open. I thought I was gonna die at first, but then I pulled myself together. I got my bat and looked down the stairs, slowly, trying not to make a sound. There he was. He was just staring at me. He didn't move, but said, "I told you not to look away." A few moments later, we heard sirens. The man still did not move. But then he suddenly changed his mind and walked over to me. I tried to swing my bat towards him, but I was so scared. I couldn't do anything except scream. The police broke down the door. One policeman tried to arrest him, and the other one tried to take the knife away from him, but the man resisted. He was strong. Even though he was outnumbered, they couldn't stop him. They threatened to shoot him in the foot, but he didn't care. Furthermore, he attacked the two policemen, and they tumbled down to the ground. I ran to one of the rooms and slammed the door shut, but he kicked in the door. When the door opened, I could see his face, and I will never, ever forget that moment. However, at that very moment, the police caught up to him and shot his foot. The guy started screaming in pain. Shortly after that, he managed to jump outside of a window and disappeared. The policemen chased after him, but unfortunately, they failed to arrest him. I never saw that guy again. I'm glad that I survived that incident, but I also feel nervous that he'll come to my house again. From that day on, I always made sure I locked all the doors and windows.
Woman in the purple dress.
A few years ago, me and my family went on our yearly holiday to Madeira, which is the birthplace of my parents. It was pretty normal for us to go annually, as our grandparents were living there. We would sleep in one of our grandparents' home, and during the day, we would go to festivals. If you do not know much about Madeira, then this story will probably give you a better idea. It's not that a physical thing occurred that holiday. It was just this nightmare that became very real for me as a child. As I said before, I was staying at my grandparents' house while in Madeira. I had a room to myself.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. Whenever you're staying at your grandparents' house, make sure you get rid of the damn dolls.
Floor. It was pretty creepy, since my grandmother loved Victorian
Fuck no. That's why. That is why.
Dolls. Once I was able to fall asleep, I had a creepy dream that I can't forget. I woke up, and from my bed, I could hear movement on the floor. I looked down to see that the floor was covered in black insects, just crawling around. I could not see the almond brown wood floorboards, and began to yell for help. Someone opened my door, and I saw my little brother come in, but behind him was a woman in a hideous purple dress. I never saw this woman before, but before my brother even came closer to me, I saw the woman force her hand into his back and tear out his heart. I remember screaming in the dream, and all the woman said was, "Your parents aren't here." And I woke up. I was so scared that I went into the next room where my brother should have been asleep. But because it was dark, I couldn't see him. Well, I was a dumb kid. My anxiety level rose even higher. I ran out, went downstairs, and none of my parents were around. I started to panic more because of what that lady in my dreams said, and I started to cry even more. Then I heard my older brother call my name from up the stairs. The stairs I just ran down. I told him I had a bad dream, and he stayed in my room after showing me that my little brother was snoring away in his bed. The next morning, my brother told my parents how I behaved, so my mother asked me what happened. I told her about the dream with the lady in the hideous purple dress. My mother's face became serious, and she looked worried. I didn't know why, since that was unusual for her. About 2 years later, I was going through my parents' wedding album in our home in Madeira, while I was sorting out the top floor of the house with my younger brother. I noticed that one of the pictures was ripped in half. I thought it was unusual, so I began looking through to see where the other half was. It wasn't in the album. I brushed it off. About an hour later, I was going through one of the drawers in the living room cabinet. I saw this picture of a woman in a purple dress. She looked almost identical to the woman in my dream. It was the same dress. I began to get goosebumps, so I put the album on top of a table and opened it to the page with the teared up picture. I began to shiver once the tear of both pictures fit perfectly well together. With worry, I began to ask my mother who was in the image. All I know to this day is that she is perceived as a witch and fled with my maternal uncle from Madeira. Soon after, the whole community began to believe it. This is possibly all just a coincidence, but it does send a shiver down my spine. I've never met this woman, but she appeared in my dreams. I have no idea on whether or not I will forget the specific details of that dream, especially since I found out more about this woman, who is my aunt-in-law.
Fuck off.
This happened.
Okay. Alright, well, that is interesting. So, I am officially going to end the video here. We will pick this up later. Not tonight. So, yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. And, I swear, this shit is so scary. Oh damn, that that's so scary. Honestly, I have never really encountered anything yet. Actually, I do plan on going to haunted places later on in the future. So, yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.
I wanna be rapped. I wanna be the top. I wanna be rocked. I want it on mine. I wanna be rich. I wanna be the king. I wanna be me. I wanna be king. Oh boy, let me see. I got a big dream. Yeah. 매일 설레지 내가 어디까지 가지. 정신없이 달리다 보니 어느새 여기까지 왔지. Yeah. 발 밑에 그림자. 고개 숙여 보니 더 커지잖아. 도망쳐봤잖아. 따라오는 저 빛과 비례하는 내 그림자. 두려워 로그나는 게 너무 무섭지 아무도 말 안 해줬잖아 여기가 얼마나 외로운지 말여 나의 도약은 추락이 될 수 있단 걸 이제 알겠어 때론 도망이 자선이란 걸 사람들은 뭐 말하지 저 빗속은 찬란한 내 근데 내 그림도 안 되는 더 크던 나를 삼킨 괴물이 돼저 위로 또 위로만 가다 보니 여긴 어디도 더 위로만 가는 신혼 무사히 바람대로 높게 날고 있는 순간 저 내려지는 빛에 더 커진 그림자 Please